Okay, so should I start now?
Yes, we can start.
Okay, so I'll share my screen and start the presentation. Okay, so today our discussion topic is gender and equality aspects in sustainable transport. And let's just start with why sustainable transport is so important for our cities. Um, Cities are growing bigger and bigger as more and more people are moving to cities. By 2050, 70% of the world's population is predicted to live in cities. This kind of movement, it actually represents a very big threat to the environment, but at the same time, it provides challenges and opportunities for everyone, for people, companies, organizations, governments, everyone. And to address these threats and provide a better quality of life for everyone, United Nations has established its 2030 agenda for sustainable development with 17 goals, in which the goal 11 focuses on sustainable cities and communities. More specifically, they want to focus on making the cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. All these buzzwords like sustainable, smart, resilient, livable, all these words are actually adopted to underline a better place to live. But what is a better place to live? Different stakeholders have different concepts about the meaning of better life. However, they all aim for a similar outcome, and that is basically an increase in productivity and competitiveness, a reduction in the environmental impact, and better welfare for its citizen. Transportation system in cities are very closely related to all these results, as mobility is the primary driver here. But what will happen when this very system is only focused on accommodating the main group and neglects basically the half of the population and their basic needs? So from this, we can see that for a sustainable city, a sustainable transportation system is a prerequisite. And for the sustainable for a transport system to be sustainable, it is really much a must that the mobility equality between man and woman exist. Now let's see how the gender situation is in transportation sector. Gender is Transport is not gender neutral, and this gender gap and gender equality is actually deeply embedded in our society. This world has shaped by male perspective, and this world actually fails to accommodate adequately the needs and experiences of women. This is also evident in the transport sector, where the default male perspective dominates the planning and policies that shape all modes of transport. There is this song by James Brown's, it's a 1966 song, and it goes as it's a man's world. You see, man made the cars to take us over the road. Man made the train to carry the heavy load. Man made electric light to take us out of the dark. And man made the boat for the water, like Noah made the ark. Well, this is true. Man made all of this. Man started all of this. However, the modern society is completely different. And although it is changing and the society is working toward a sustainable tomorrow where man and woman are equal. However, this male dominance is still can be seen in modern transportation sectors. Men are dominating it for decades, if not centuries, and this impact actually both the way women experience travel and their access to destinations. So it is high time that we recognize these differences and take some action to change the scenario. The gender differences exist in several aspects in the transport sector, including the access to transport modes, safety and security when traveling, the participation of women in transport research and innovation. To give you a little bit more perspective, only 22% people employed in European transport sector are women. This vastly impacts how women's needs are being associated in the projects and how women's voices are being heard. Even European research funded projects started dealing with women's issues in transport less than 20 years ago. Although the discussion about equality and women's need were in conversation from early 1980s, at least it was in the case in the USA and UK. And there are almost 40 European initiatives and regulations that promotes gender equality. However, only 1% of those related projects within TRIMIS, that is Transport Research and Innovation Monitoring and Information System under the European Union, only 1% of the related projects deals with women issues in transport. Again, in the research and innovation sector, the senior positions, although there are the numbers are increasing of women in this area, however, all the senior positions are still predominated by men, which influence the research direction and leadership. These kind of factors actually have direct implications for how transport systems are designed and operated to meet the travel needs of women, which is very different than from men. So if we only consider that on man's demand and their need, it's not going to be sustainable in the long run. So let's focus on actually in what kinds women's transport need is different. Women's mobility characteristics are very complex. It's very more complex than men. Between men and women, the mobility characteristics vary regarding more choices, time of travel, trip purpose, route, travel distance, and so on. And this even gets more complicated if you consider different groups among women, depending on their age, family structure, financial condition, education, geography, race, religion, everything. A recent change in the traditional gender roles, we can all see that there is this shift when women are joining the workforce, and more women are getting active to have financial independency. But you would think this kind of changes are actually making the life easier for women, but it's actually on the contrary. This recent traditional gender role change in the gender roles and household tasks actually resulting more responsibilities for women, because women undertakes unpaid care work each week between 6 to 8 hours in Nordic countries, and that can go up to 15 hours in other countries. So you see, now women are working both their doing both their previous jobs and new jobs. So again, a 2019 travel survey proves this point, and it shows that women perform double the number of trips for domestic tasks than men. Further, if we consider this a notion of safety, security, accessibility, and transport reliability, it only adds to women's mobility limitations, because the notion of safety, firstly, is not the same for women as it is for men when they are in a public space. So we can summarize from this all this discussion that the present scenario of women is that it's not all the women's needs are not actually visible, whereas the men's needs are on the forefront. Now, let's think about the newer technologies. We're getting introduced to so many new things like automated vehicles, electric vehicles, and bike sharing, and things like that. But are these new technologies really suitable for women? Women are actually shy of these new technologies, like automated vehicles, for example. And one of the reasons is their financial condition. Although more and more women are joining the workforce, it is still evident that this it is still evident that there is a huge gap between the man's income and woman's income. And even in developed countries like Canada, we can see a huge gap. There is this evident gap between the man and woman's income among the couples with children. Another reason why women feel less accepting of these newer technologies is linked to the physical characteristics of vehicles. As cars has always been, traditionally speaking, designed for male bodies in terms of seating, posture, seatbelt safety. Till 2011, most of American car manufacturers were actually using crash test dummy based on a male biology to conduct their safety test. So what does this show you? Like, uh, if we if they could have tested it for a woman and it would have been safe for both men and women, but their main concern was only men, so they just tested it for men and they promoted it and they just put this out in the delivered this out on the world as a safe mode or a safe car, but it is actually not, at least not for women. So just to give you a bit more insight in the future modes and future transportations, they're really getting we're seeing a very big change and shift toward more technologically advanced vehicles and more technologically advanced structures. With recent innovation and advancements, the transportation ecosystem is actually becoming more and more complex. The development and implementation of autonomous vehicles are argued to be the central part of creation of future sustainable and inclusive transportation system. But its development and implications add to the system's complexity. A 2021 research among 3 Swedish stakeholder groups, that is future users, urban planners, and developers, shows some very interesting findings. All these 3 groups have similar assumptions about these autonomous vehicles, as their main information source is social media or the articles available online. However, even these 3 groups are not really sure about the timeline or the time frame when this assumed changes is going to happen. They all agree that this is a very complex topic and there is very much difficulties associated with the implementations. However, they all have different preconditions. They think of different preconditions that are needed to be in place to achieve this kind of desired outcome. And they have different set of concerns for the consequences that these autonomous vehicles will be bringing into our society. And they are not at fault, actually, because this is bound to happen as the available research and data is not enough to recognize the complexities of this transport ecosystem or the future demands. Even the lack of spatial information doesn't allow a thorough understanding of gender and transport issues across the EU. And you can understand if this is the scenario in European areas where the transport network is so well developed and arguably so, and is advancing toward more sustainable future, and they are making the world recognition for their work. The situation of gender recognition is still this in this area of the world. So how it is in the developing countries. And if this futuristic mold stays confined to the traditional mindset of this male dominant approach, then even with all this advancement in the transportation system, we will not be able to gain our desired sustainability. So what should we change, or how can we shift toward that desiration, that desired sustainable society? What can we do to start making the change? Well, let's start with changing our mindset. When we think about a fair transport, that is the main goal for most of the countries across the universe. They all think that transportation should be a fair designed for all of us. They think of fairness as providing an equal treatment to all individuals. But we can shift this mindset toward targeting actually equal opportunity for everyone, getting equal outcomes for both men and women. And we can make it just for both the gender. So what do you think? Like, what do you think is the prerequisite for a sustainable tomorrow or a better future? What is your vision for the future? Why don't you join me in the conversation and tell me a little bit more? Mikhail?
Yeah, thank you very much for very nice overview and presentation.
Thank
And
you.
it's very, very important to understand our priority of adopting the technology and for adopting for the which sector we have to more focus.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important topic and very important aspect are addressed in this presentation. Now, over to you, Dr. Michael.
Yes, and I think that now we have, like in my case, I'm a technology guy, and then I make a technology planning and a little bit better technology improvement and so on. But if we actually should reach impact over a long time, for example, addressing 2050, then we need to include other aspects already now. So
Yeah.
this means that maybe 80% of my time I focus on the technology stuff, and then 20% I try to include other aspects. Gender is one of them, and so on. But this certainly will need to be more considered. And if we are looking into the we live in Europe in our case, so then we need to include European perspectives and also European Commission visions and so on. And now, when I was looking, there are this gender equality strategy of Europe, 2020 to 2025, and they say that many things have been achieved, but there is more to do, which means that in our projects, if we want to have a real vision for the impact what we can do, we need to include some of these things depending on the level of a project. So this means that we need to have visions including these aspects, even though we are not so familiar with this type of discussion. Like, I'm a technology guy, so I think technology immediately, but the gender aspects are there, which means that we need to be more familiar with them. And overall, of course, it will lead to complementary collaborations from different disciplines working together.
And I think it is very important that we actually introduce this gender aspect to the technological, like more technological groups and persons, because when you are designing for, say, like these autonomous vehicles, as I said, like if you will be designing with the traditional approach, you will be making more changes to make it more more technologically advanced. But if you just have this idea that, well, the previous generation haven't focused on gender aspects, not so much, evidently, but if we are moving toward that futuristic mode, then we should consider the gender aspect. And if they start with this kind of mindset that I'm going to develop something, I'm going to make my technology equally suitable for men and women, they will have actually more feature in their system, in their structure, to make the changes easy for our society. Like, safety is a very big issue for women. Now that we're talking about autonomous vehicles, we can think about like how can we make it more safe for women? If we are only thinking about men, safety will not be that much big of a concern for us. But just when we consider women, safety will be a very big concern for us. So if one person is making a vehicle that is very advanced, and one person is making another vehicle that is advanced but at the same time very safe, which one will be suitable for the future, and which one will be approved for like mass production and mass distribution? Obviously the second one. And again, when we're talking about like the bicycle sharing apps and things like that, they are designing it to make an environmental impact. So their target is obviously making some profit and making those changes, but at the same time, making it more environmentally friendly and reducing the number of trips that people take on other vehicles like bus or cars where the gas emission is so high. So if you just tell them that, listen, women actually makes double the trip than men for domestic tasks and like short distance trips, so instantly they will think of like, okay, our design should actually focus on that, because we can target double, we can actually reduce double number of trips if we focus on women rather than focusing on men. So maybe we can design our stoppages with this mindset and put our stoppages near residential areas rather than just focusing on the office areas. Because in office areas, men and women both goes there to work, and they will take it maybe only once or twice a day to make the trip from home to the office and office to the home. But if we're focusing on the residential areas where other women who are maybe working part-time or working from home lives, they will take at least 3 to 4 rides each day to maybe drop their kids at home, sorry, at school, pick up their kids from school, and then from grocery shopping and things like that. So I think this conversation is needed not only for the policymakers and for the planners, it is also very much needed for the technological persons, so that they can bring in technologies that are actually truly, in sense, futuristic. Because the future is obviously holds man and woman will be an equal position. So why not start with the technological person and bring changes from there?
Yes, so I can make a comment and then we'll let in Na. But just for
Sorry.
example, you mentioned the electric bikes,
Yeah.
which are now everywhere and being a problem because they are. But for example,
Yes. We need.
females, they have usually a bag with a lot of stuff. This is the common thing. I don't think I've seen any electric bike with a little basket.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's just one reminder when you talked about this. And maybe we are not aware about it and then we're not thinking. But for example, I'm sure that if we have a small basket in front, then the weight will change, which means that the safety will change if there is a stop or stone or something like that. So the technology people have not considered this, or maybe they have done and skipped it or whatever. But I think there are more examples that when there are good intentions, by addressing these things, then we get to understand them more.
Yes.
So please, Na, you have raised hand.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks, Jerin, for that interesting presentation. I got the feeling that this was actually based on the European context. But looking at where I am coming from in Africa, can you throw some light on the situation there? And then we also identified that there are different intersections in these different contexts. So maybe, like you rightly said, Europe could be ahead of Asia or Africa in so many aspects. And we cannot bring them all up together at the same point, but we have to identify the different intersections and then see how to bring them little by little to meet at the center. So I would like to know some of the issues, because maybe the problems will be different and all that. Like for where I'm coming from, for instance, we have so many women in the informal sector, like market women and all that. So the traveling aspects could be different from these different contexts in Africa and then Europe. So if you could just shed a little light on the differences in these contexts. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. It's actually a very good question, because, we can see that even in Asia, Africa, and Europe, these continents have very different structure, and women also have very different kinds of roles in terms of their household chores, in terms of how many women are actually going to work or not. So yes, it is very different, but I think the thing is, we are all trying to focus on public transport, and it's very important that when we are focusing on public transport rather than the personal cars or personal vehicles, we think about women. It is not necessary that when we have come to a certain point of development, after that we focus on this gender issues and gender things. I'm saying that although Europe has advanced, obviously, in transport sector than Asia or Africa, it has to start now to consider gender aspects more. But at the same time, in Asia and Africa, in both the continents, we have to focus on gender from now on, because safety is a very big issue for our society, for our women. Women are being, like, to be blunt, women are being tortured on public transport, and they have there is assault, there is rapes, and so many other things. So when we are focusing more on public transportation, and we should be considering the gender aspect and the needs, actual needs of the society. we have to consider how many women are actually working, how many that certain group are actually traveling for other purposes, what are their purposes, what are their roles, what are their needs. We have to concentrate on that and then design our transport network. And it has to be, even for the public transport, it has to be an integrated transport system, so that for both men and women, you have the complete control over the roads and trips and modes of you can choose every one of them. If you are going from your home, starting from your home, having 2 or 3 destinations and coming back home, we have to consider all these travel modes, all these decisions, and make it suitable for man and woman. So it's not about just Europe being developed and Asia and Africa being not so developed or being underdeveloped countries. It is that what is actually going to support the society better? A system that is only advanced from the technological perspective, or a system that is actually recognizes these differences of needs and differences of demands. So be it Asia or Africa or Europe, we have to focus on our society and actually start with having the data that we have these categories of people living in our this kind of area, and they makes this kind of trips. Their purpose is this and that, and their need is this and that. So what kind of mode, what kind of technologies is suitable for to accommodate that kind of need? And my point is that our society is like half men and half women. So our focus should be half men and half women, not only on men. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yes, and this is now an informal part, so everyone is just feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question.
And yes, and this gender aspect is not only on the transport sector, it is very much interconnected in all of other sectors as well. So I think technology connects everything together, and gender is like, it's our society. So whenever we're thinking about making a progress in our society, we should consider gender aspects. So it can come from very different fields of work. So
Yes, and this is a good source, and I know that when I have been at other types of meeting, when you're meeting different disciplines, so in the beginning it's very strange connection. We don't have the natural flow, but after a little bit of discussion a few times, then there is something which is matching from the different disciplines. So that's why I think this is so interesting to have it like gender and mobility aspects in sustainable transport and versus my hardcore technology for future key enabling technologies and so on. It raises a lot of things.
yes.
So does anyone have a question from the participants?
We have some questions in the chat.
Oh, sorry, I haven't noticed that. Maybe I'll just stop sharing. So,
Yes, there is comment or another question from Anshuman, so you can please address it.
okay.
Yeah, also Mohana want to ask something. He raised hand.
Okay.
So firstly go with Mohana. Yeah.
Okay, Mohanad.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Jerin, for your efforts. Any idea can be in future developed more, and really can we achieve good results from any idea. But what I would add that I took yesterday, that I think, that's my opinion, that this depends on the culture of any nation's geographic location. For example, just I want to provide an example. In Saudi Arabia, it's a very rich country.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and before 1 year only ago, they allowed the women to drive cars. Before, it was impossible to drive cars for women, for example. So it means that we are going to the globalism, to the development, to another sustainable, understanding. That's why I think in future, like sustainable transport, the gender factor will not be so effective. This is my opinion. Sorry for that. Because, for example, we cannot distinguish between women and man. Why? Because they are always together. Mostly they are always together. A girl with her boyfriend, with her husband, with her I don't know who. So I think that we can we have to develop this idea more. For example, to create something for both all gender should be good in like sustainable transport and easy transport and suitable in future. Thank you.
As I said, like the in case of the car manufacturers, they are focusing on male dummy bodies to test their crash limits and things like that. So now that you have mentioned that in Saudi Arabia, it was like mostly all the men who used to drive, and now is shifting toward women, and women now have this right to have driver's license and drive a car. So although you said like they are together with a man, yes, that's true, that's maybe true, but at the same time, if a car is woman biology proof, if a car is tested for woman's body structure, it's gonna be equally safe for men. But if the car is only for safe for the man, it's not gonna be equally safe for the woman. So just by considering these gender issues, you have actually covered all, both men and women, just by considering women. But if you consider only on man, you're actually neglecting the woman's need. And again, like think about the driver's seat. It has to be comfortable and like in a suitable position for someone to drive, be that man and woman. Now, as I mentioned in my presentation, that the car seat actually structured and designed for male body type. The posture, the seatbelt safety, and the position, everything is actually male, based on male's body structure. So we should think about something and make it actually comfortable for man to woman. No, because we are Mars, we can do anything. We cannot make a seat that will be suitable for man, but at the same time can be converted to fit a woman's need.
Okay, but why do you consider that it should be more safety for women, for example? Why you
Sorry?
why you want to distinguish between men and women? Why you consider that it should be more safety for women, for example?
Okay, now consider you have two kids. Okay, so one is just a little one, like maybe 1.5 years old, who is crawling all over the place and maybe started walking, and the other one is 4 years old. Yeah, so if you are baby proofing your house, like you are stopping all those electric points, like covering them with something, you are just making sure the corners of the table and everything is like secured and everything, who will you focus on? Or your 4-year-old or your 1.5 years old? Your 4-year-old have at least a basic idea that this is not safe, although they will still touch that, but they have different kind of understanding of things being safe or unsafe, and they have better control over their body. They're not going to fall over often. Whereas your 1.5-year-old who's just started walking, they will fall very often. They will touch all those points more times a day than you can count. So when you are baby proofing your house, if you focus on your little one and baby proof your house, it's going to be safe for both your little one and your kid. But if you only focus on your 4-year-old, because it's your first boy, you love him more than anything in the world, it's not going to be safe for the little one, right? So my point is, if you focus on women's safety, you are actually making it safe for everyone, for both men and women. But if you only restricted your ideas to make it safe for the man, it's not going to be safe for the women. You understand my point now?
Yes, but please think about the men also. We want to live on
Don't
We want to
worry.
live safely also.
Yes, of course. We are not gonna left you alone. So don't worry. Women actually think about everyone. But when men uh, design something, and it's not genuinely their fault also, because
Yeah,
sometimes it's their mindset, sometimes it's the society. Like even for Saudi Arabia, like even 1 year back or few years back, women were not driving the car. So there was no point of thinking all this kind of things like making it safe for women or things like that, like or making changes to the driver's seat so that it can convert it suitably for the woman. There was no need for that, right? But that now the society is changing. It is very much needed, right? So now if I say like religion doesn't stop you to doesn't say like if I'm talking about only about Saudi Arabia, which is like very Muslim dominated country. Nowhere in Quran it says like woman cannot drive,
because
right?
the cars were
It
built.
was a cultural thing. It was a cultural thing, and these things gonna change often. And maybe it was not even needed for women to drive because of their traditional roles, and they used to stay at home, not to work and take care of the family, which is a very good thing. I'm not talking about like what is good or what is better. It's not about that. It's just that the time is changing, the society is changing, so we should actually make our system change accordingly. We cannot just stay behind and make it up to the women to have a safer environment make a safe environment for themselves. We have to come together and make this effort, from the organization, from the government to and the policymakers, planners from everywhere, to support both men and women.
Yes.
And now,
Yes, thank you. I think the arguments should move beyond women, because we're talking about gender equality. So
Yeah.
how to bring everybody on board, or
Yeah.
when we are building these things, we have to consider the different needs of each gender and try to include it. I remember like even till today, when you travel to the UK, it's so difficult to move around with children, especially when they are still in the pram, because the buses were not built in a way where they can accommodate these prams.
Yeah.
So you either have to go with the taxi or you have to walk. Okay, and this is Europe. Okay, so what this whole thing is about is that when we are building these things, we should consider the different people boarding this or using these things. When we have the bus, we have women boarding, we have children, we have pregnant women. Now I can see, especially on the Pendeltåg from Uppsala to Stockholm, you have a place for pregnant women.
Yeah.
Okay. So now all these considerations, sometimes you have a place for the elderly who are using the walking stick and all those things. So, and also now we have for blind people where they can easily get on with the wheelchair. So this is what we are talking about. Let's consider the different users of these things and not just let one gender dominate in the decision making, but the society these discussions when we are developing these things. Thank you.
And for the most time, it was only for the whole design structure, the whole policy making and planning was focused on the major group, the major user groups. But our main argument is that it cannot be just focused on the major user groups. It actually has to shift toward more vulnerable groups, be that pregnant woman carrying a baby in their stroller or pram, or maybe a person in wheelchair, or maybe a blind person. They all have rights, because a society can only go toward a better future when all these people are actually given opportunities. Only one part of the society cannot bring the whole society forward. All of the society together can make this, can bring this change. So that's why our focus should be on these vulnerable groups rather than only the major percentage. Maybe 80% of the vehicles are, like, maybe 80% of the users are men, but that doesn't mean our design should only focus on men, right? Maybe it's just 2% who are like on wheelchair, who are using that airport, but still that airport should be suitable to accommodate the needs of the person in the wheelchair. That is our argument. That is the basic of all this discussion and everything. Like, that is our focus.
Yes. So I think that this is like a, basically it is a message to all of us, try to include more of these thinkings, so we are having these other types of meetings and so on. And I know that there are things where the different continents have similar problems, and here we have as a participant Dr. Aparna Dixit, and she's from India, and 2 years ago I remember they established a sanitary napkin vending machine in the Indian trains. So that's our first contact came there. And just a few months ago, there was some students in Sweden who proposed similar need also. So it shows that there are some basic things which are not considered, like on trains you don't have these things and some other ones, but they are similar questions at the continents. So that was just an example from Aparna's participation here, which I got reminded of.
Yes, and just by
Hello,
having,
Michael.
sorry,
And
go ahead,
Okay,
please.
okay, please carry on, please.
No, please, you go ahead.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm very happy to see you again.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also happy to see all of your collaboration, and I'm equally convinced with Jerin Lubna what she was saying. Actually, we have made a lot of things, and if we look around us, like in Indian continent, not in Indian continent, even we can think on some entire Asia. This is the basic problem. Actually, car is made for all of us. Okay, so mentally, those who are basically mentally disabled or like this, fully automatic, but some simple things are basically lacking there. Like we must have sanitary napkin vending machine or some like this, so that it is suitable for a man and woman also equally. And the seat, what we think on the seat covers, basically the structure of woman is completely different, their bones structure. So nowadays we can see equally women are also driving the car for a long run. So we should design the seat covers in that particular way. We can we can think on safety features, like some facility of oxygen concentrator equally, which is very beneficial for man and woman, because equally we are needed in this. We can see when we are facing the challenges, which are basically man-made problems in our in our earth. So if we look all these challenges, so these are some basic things which we could import in cars, and then both of the, like man or woman, equally benefited. Okay, so like vending machine, some kind of incinerator, like and oxygen concentrator, some automatic sanitizers also, like microwave sanitizers. We can import these small things in our cars. And in railways also, you can see a big conjunctions of railway network in our country, in India. So keeping in mind, we are designing all these so that we can give a lot of benefits by providing such kind of designs to for the human being. Okay, because all are traveling via train, via cars, and even nowadays truck drivers are taxi drivers are also women. So we can think
Yeah.
on these terms. I think basic things can be accommodated there.
Yes, and I also think like it is not that hard because like if you think about it, we have car seat for babies, right? And but we don't have like we don't have anything for women. So as you said, like the bone structure is different, the whole physiology of woman is different. We have just a simple cover up maybe for the driver's seat, so that when a man is driving, it is okay for them to just use that car like the seat. And when a woman is driving, she can just attach this frame or like cover, and it will suit like fit her as it would fit a man. So these little changes can make such differences. And also like your initiative for having this sanitary napkin points in public transport areas is very much needed when you think about it. Like these kind of things is like so much stressful for women. And if you are considering the school going students like women, sorry, girls, they are leaving their home like early in the morning, they're attending their schools, they're going for all these kind of like tutor centers and coaching centers, and they have all these activities, like they're basically outside of their home for this whole day, and they're traveling, they're using like thousands of small girls and women and ladies are using this public transport, and anything can happen, right, with anyone. If they just have these points there where they can buy their necessary things, it would make life so much easier and less stressful for them. And they need it on a monthly basis, like for maybe a whole week among the 4 in a month. So, but no one thinks about it, like this is a basic need for women. So why it took us like 2020 or 2022 to have this kind of service in our public space? This is very much needed. And yes, we should think about it, and we should move forward that kind of public structure that can actually support everyone's need. I'm so sorry, the lighting is going.
Dynamic.
Yeah, it's just the Swedish weather. It's sunny 1 minute and cloudy the next. So
Yes. I think here we can make a conclusion, sort of. Now we say that we should consider these things and so on, and they have not been. But I remember a nice example from Nicholas Verne from Vineo about digital twins, when he talked about how NASA changed their working style. Earlier, when they had a development project, it took 9 months to set this stuff. And then they changed the format that everybody was meeting during 2 or 3 days. Everybody was in the same room. So when you had a consideration, you could go to the next table and ask, if I do this, how is your reflection? What should I consider? So these other aspects, they get immediate response. So if we would have similar interactive type of meetings about these things, and now we can do it on Zoom to have interactions just to digest these things, so we are actually being aware of some of the things which we otherwise would miss in a normal project. So this interactive type of thing is something which we can learn from to do more, even though we don't have a project, but just to consider these aspects as early as possible.
Yes, and also, as I talked about that 3 Swedish stakeholder groups like urban planner, the users, future users, and the developers, they have all these different kind of scenarios, but just by bringing them together, you can have a conversation like, what are the plans? What does the planners is thinking? Like, what are the planners' plan? What the users can just have a say in there, like, this is our needs. Have you considered this? And the developers can make it change accordingly, right? Like, just by having these different groups coming together and having a conversation can make so much differences. And if not, like, if this program or like any project gets started and it gets like all the work is done, and then this thing is running for years, and then they are facing this, like these problems are coming forward, and then they will have to make a change. But just by having a focus group discussion, or maybe a inter group discussion, can solve these issues by like from the beginning. So, and also, if you consider this like policy kind of things, it is so hard to collaborate among different organizations, among different departments, even in the same organization. I don't know why it is so difficult, because we know that having this conversation is important, and having everyone on board and on the same page is very important. But again, it is proven often that these government organizations are still so rigid, still so not inflexible in terms of their work commitment, getting involved with each other, that it actually affects the project, it actually affects the society. So I'm not sure how we can change this, but to me it's like a very easy solution. You just come together and talk. But it seems very difficult to this government organizations.
Yeah, I think this is government organizations. They are very traditional, and like elephants, they move slowly, and it's not so fast to change direction. And that's why I appreciate, for example, when there are formed private research institutes or innovation SMEs, like Dr. Parna. She's one of the founders of Sangra Innovation, which means that from innovative point of view, it is a much faster mover than the traditional university. But still, traditional university are needed for the right direction movement. And then we have these smaller ones which can move faster around these things to be complementary. So that's a nice example of how we can combine like a university and innovation company or research institute to address more of these things in a natural way.
I think if we can study, for example, special cases for men, special cases for women, not distinguish them between gender. For example, special places for women pregnant, or for women illness or handicap. For example, the same situation for men, for example, special case of special innovation for men who are illness, for example. Because take an example, if a woman or a girl, 20 years, sitting in the metro, she will see, for example, a man, old man coming, entering. She will stand and give her place, for example, right? So always happens. For example, I'm driving the car. I'm tired. I'm giving the driving place for my wife. So what we can consider or offer a special driving place for women, 2 places for driving, for example. No, I think we have to distinguish between them depending on the situation or depending on the special cases of the gender, 2 genders. That's only one. because we are men, we are also we have to take care about ourselves.
Well, the point is not neglecting you. Again, it's not about neglecting the need of men, because again, the major users are still men, right? Uh, be it in the metro or like the public transport sector or everything. Like, yes, men are still using that platform for, like, maybe the percentage of male users are still higher than women and every other groups. The point is making it suitable for everyone. Okay, so yes, you are talking about like not just focusing on women, but focusing both on men and women. And our point is, for centuries, the focus was on men. So their need is already there. So this is time we focus on women and more vulnerable groups. It's not to just take away your rights or your comfort. It's to provide the same one for the other groups.
Sorry, something small I want to add that in our century, I'm seeing the different. We take care of women more than women. Because, for example, you have to open the door for them, for the woman. You have to kiss the hand of the woman. You have to wear her the coat. You have to talk a lot of good words, flowers, everything. I think that we take care of women more than
Really? You want to talk about taking care? Okay, so in a family, yes, let's consider a traditional family, okay, where man goes to work, woman stays at home, take care of their family, look after the kids, and things like that. Okay, let's even take care of that family. Yes, when you are going, the men are the financial breadwinner for that family. Then when you are going out, the men are driving, they are holding the door to when they're entering some place, they're holding the door for their wives. But who is taking care of the man? The women are cooking, cleaning, doing everything else, taking care of like you all the time, without getting any payment or anything. And now even you won't even want to kiss her hand. What is this?
that's why should be some special places in the transport, sustainable transport for her, because she clean the dishes and cooks and
The society is changing. Now women are equally joining the workforce as men. Okay, so um, again, it's not about taking your comfort and like it's not about giving it from you and giving it to the woman. It's about giving the both necessities, taking care of both of your necessities,
yes.
giving it to both of you. Okay, and with our technologies and advancements, it's not like our resources are so limited that if I give a little bit to the woman, the man will be in like some place where they're in like bad luck. It's not like that. We have enough resources, but the distribution should be proper. The distribution should be justified. That's what our point is.
Yes, so I think that now time is running, so we have already discussed 1 hour. So let's see if is there any additional question from the participants who have not commented or asked question yet before we conclude. There's still room for a question or two. Feel free to unmute yourself in that case.
No, I think there is no question. And
Yes, Susanne.
I'll just quickly share that, yeah, if anyone wants to refer back to the...
Can I add something?
Yes.
Yes, and this goes to Aga. I remember there was a time in Gothenburg, there was so much crime from the tram stop to the various houses, especially with women. So it got to a point the police had to be there around 7 to escort these women to their various apartments. Okay, and this crime was being committed by men, of course. So I got what, like Jerin rightly said, it's not about excluding one, but trying to identify the various issues, okay, and then putting them into these things, thinking about these things when we are coming up with these policies and all that, just to make it safe and comfortable for everybody to travel. Okay, so it's not about taking all the rights from men and giving to women, but we're talking about safety. The police didn't have to escort the men because they could take care of themselves, but women were the vulnerable group. So they were there to carry them because some were being raped, some were being killed. And this happened in Gothenburg. Okay.
Yes. So I think that now we can conclude, and here are the references for those who want to more. But what I want to emphasize here is that now we have initiated the conversation, a discussion from different disciplines, different aspects, different parts of the world. But when you have ideas in the future about these things, feel free to contact us and we can continue this, because I'm pretty sure that this will develop into various types of projects where we introduce new elements to our conventional projects and thinking. And this is the value of having this discussion, which was now initiated by Jerin's presentation here. So we have seen the discussion part has been dominating the presentation part. So this is a good sign that there is a lot of reflections and things we need to digest, and then we will have more questions. So we will continue this discussion. So if anyone has a suggestion for this, please contact us and we'll bring it forward.
Yeah, a very interesting talk and very, very important discussion going on in this whole session. So I just want to add that lots of such means important question we have listened by either by Mohana or Elote or Dr. Dikshit. So overall, we have to focus, carry on this, as Dr. Michael suggested, and focus on some kind of European Union or your country related country, any kind of woman related this kind of project where we can together apply there. And also one of the aspect which reflected in this thing, that we have to carry on this either publication format or blog format, or make a very good report of this, and where everyone's suggestion and important topics should be included in that, so that we can make one report also. Jerin, you have to make a kind of report a
Yeah,
report of
yeah,
this
sure.
also, where means include everyone's suggestion. And also I had seen some chat question also, so you also address that in your overall this report.
Yes,
That
sure,
will be
of
very nice
course.
and very useful for whenever we will apply for any kind of small grant or something. Then we can means use this report or any kind of small publications
Yeah, we can
which
show
you are
that, like,
writing. Yes, yes,
yeah, we're involved in this conversation and we have this kind of
yes.
understanding about the
Yes,
topics.
yes, yes. And carry on this, as Dr. Michael suggested, related to, because this time women equality, circular economy, and transportation, advanced technology, all these are very, very important things, which we have to not to include for our understanding, but also for improving the society also. It has a very big impact. So that's why we have to carry on this kind of initiatives. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Thank you so much for your comment. Thank you.
And I know this, like now there is Sweden India call on circularity, but then there will also be other about gender and so on between different countries. So this is just shows that it goes in that direction. So with that, I think we can conclude the formal part. This
Yeah.
meeting will still be open, but we can have an informal chat. And thank you very much, Dr. Apana. to visit here and create this exchange. I was so happy to see your initiative about sanitary napkins a couple of years ago, and now they match together on ideas.
Yeah, means I'm also means like this is the thing when you organize this kind of, we come to know some special thing. Like I first time know about Dr. Arpana Dikshit and about her initiative, and it is very important thing, not only for means Europe, developed country, but also for South Asia, Africa, and all these things. So I request Dr. Michael to invite sometime Dr. Dikshit so that we can know about initiative and try to explore these things and get benefit, and how to make a shape more better way so that society can also get more benefit of her project.
Yes, of
Sure,
course.
Anshumita.
Hmm.
Sure, definitely. We will meet very soon, so we can discuss a lot of things which should be accommodated in different transport areas. So, which would
Yes,
be very beneficial for all kind of, not only women. It's for all. It's not like a 50-50%. It's
yes,
like
yes.
it is made for all. So generally, you have seen that we just kept used to keep medical kit inside the car when we buy
Okay.
the car. Okay. So, but there is a lack of sanitary napkin. This is the basic need of all women. So
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
we can keep there. So it's not like it is good for only women. It is for all. So we can
Everyone.
take some basic things which are very much required by man and woman. What they need inside the transportation system. So we should
Yes.
think on all these.
Yeah, that's very important comment. Jerin means this is very important comment. Means if you are addressing about the gender equality and all these things, so I think you have to include this point also.
Yes, of course. This is very important. And as we are saying, like, this is a monthly need for women. This is the basic need
Basic
for
need, yeah,
them.
very
Yeah.
important.
And
And
still, it took us all these years to get to a point where it is available for them
yeah,
in the transport sector. So
yeah. So use also user-friendly transportation. If we make user friendly, so user friendly is not only for man oriented, but also for woman oriented, as you also mentioned in your talk, how means they design all the system only to consider human as man as a model, but they have to also consider woman as a model and design the things user friendly. So this is very important comment, and also include Mohanad and Elote comment. So I think by this way you can address a very good aspect in this uh, topic. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Anson.
Yeah. Thank.
Nice to see you again here.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, so I think that here we conclude,
conclude. Yeah.
Conclude. Yes.
finalize, and with Dr. Apana, we will bring up the discussion on projects. We have already started some sharing of ideas, and now we found more common areas for discussions of activities.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely. Thank you so much for being here, so we could discuss some more important things which are equally important for all mankind or womankind, for human beings especially.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so there are basic needs in gender things, but there are also basic needs in time. I know that we have some meetings coming up, so we should finish this. We are already 20-minute overtime discussion, which shows that it has been very interesting. And in Sweden, we also have a basic need of coffee in the morning. This is a tradition. So with this, I
Yeah.
would like to thank everybody, and especially Jerin, for preparing this and initiating this conversation, and we will bring it forward.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining and have a lovely day. And as Swedish says it, tack så mycket.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.